Well, technically, auditor. Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Property Committee meeting. This meeting will be live streamed through the Council's Facebook page. Persons attending will be captured on film except when seated in the public seating area with the exclusion of the first row. Any speech may be picked up and broadcast. A fire alarm drill is not planned. In the event that the alarm sounds, please make your way out of the building using either staircase and make your way to the point in the Red Line Yard where you will asked to wait for further instructions. Councillors are reminded that to avoid the risk of being seen as predetermined or biased, they should consider all debate prior to deciding on how to vote on items of business. Urgent items. Items for information only can be brought to the attention of the Council at the discretion of the Chair at the end of the meeting. No decision can be taken on items not detailed on the published agenda. And please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off or turned to silent. So business to be transacted. Number one, apologies for absence.
Councillor Holt in this.
Thank you. Point two, declarations for the receipt disclosures. Oh, sorry, yes. And I have a proposal. And a seconder. Thank you. And all in favour? Declarations of interest. To receive disclosures of interest from councillors or matters to be considered at the meeting. The disclosure shall include the nature of interest. If a member becomes aware during the course of the meeting of an interest that has not been disclosed, they must do so immediately. Got anything to declare? No? Okay, thanks. Point three, public participation. To receive questions or comments from the members of the public. We don't have anything here, but is there anything come through or not? No. Point four, members' questions. To receive questions from members regarding the workings of the council. Is there any questions from members? Councillor McNeill.
The weeds around the streets now is getting desperate, I think. There was a bit of a bottle broken by the St James's, which wasn't cleared up at all. We actually went down on Monday and did it. But, I think the place is getting scruffy at the best. Whether there's anybody now doing the work, I don't know.
Yeah, I've noticed that Rodney is not around, but somebody has come and replaced him, so somebody else who does do the street cleaning through the week, and also weekends, I believe.
I haven't seen anybody for a while.
Okay. So
I will ask West Devon.
we can ask West Devon for council. And
I think the chap who was standing in has been standing out more than standing in. Whether he's taken away by West Devon, I don't know.
That does happen sometimes when they're short other places.
okay, Councillor Lynch.
I'm happy to chase.
Okay, great, thank you, Councillor Lynch. Any other questions for members?
Just going on from that, the only practical solution, from my view now, is that one sprays along the pavements. But the growth is horrendous in some places.
Yeah, I think if we could raise that with West Edinburgh Council and ask them what their plan is to keep, because I know that when Rodney was doing it, he often would be taking the weeds out as well. And I think that's why he got so many awards, because he went the extra mile. And so, so it's perhaps just getting on and seeing if the replacement
Thank you.
could do that as well, or if we could have it on that. Thank you. Minutes. To confirm, approve, and sign the minutes of the Property Committee meetings held on the 10th of November and the 1st of December 2025, 2nd of February and the 18th of May 2026. So do I have a proposal? Oh, I guess I'm proposing. Could you sign that? Councillor Fisher, and all in favour? Thank you. I'll sign them after the meeting. Okay. Point 6. Facility hire, bookings. To know a summary of bookings for August, September and October 2026. So you'll find on your meeting report that there is 3 pages of bookings. It's all very exciting to know that we're using our hall. Have you got any comments or? And then 6.2 ceremonies. To note that the registration service office in the town hall is also registered and they are now offering small ceremonies, the couple and witness, at lower cost on Mondays in their office from July 2026. So if anybody who would like to do a smaller ceremony, you could point them in that direction on Monday. Point 7, Charter Hall and Town Hall. Alcohol sales, 7.1. To note, the following applications to sell alcohol under the premises license have been approved by the facilities officer in consultation with either committee chair or vice chair since the last meeting of the committee. So we have on the 19th of July, the Oaken Music Day, 24th of July, ABBA music event. I went to that a couple of years ago, it's very good. 28th of November, private birthday party, and finally on the 11th of December, jazz performance. Then 7.2, Marsden's Law, Terrorism Protection of Property Act 2025. Consider the report in relation to staffing and management of events. So that's in your notes if people would like to take a minute to read them if they've not already done so, and then we can take any comments then you've got any comments. Did you want somebody to propose that we adopt this, or is it already?
It's not quite to adopt that, but it's ways we're going to work with this rather than adopt it, because that is the law that's coming in. But there are some things there under considerations that the council will need to think about at some point.
Okay, Councillor Clements?
I think on the whole, that the premise should lie on the people hiring the room, with us providing the information that they should be adhering to. Most groups will take that on and act very, very sensibly, is the word I would use. My concern comes with the big public events that we run, i.e. Christmas and the use by the college, where we have regular issues with overcrowding and no control of people going in and out of the building. This will become a major concern, and it's only for these events, which hopefully we'll get more of because we need to generate more income. But if that's the case, then we need to be providing the support with proper qualified, highly visible members of staff to ensure that the rules are not overdone. And as I raised after the Christmas meeting the other year, it was impossible to get into the Charter Hall. You know, just I gave up. And I quite enjoyed watching the choir and watching the band play and stuff like that. But it was so badly disorganised. The table was in the room, in the middle of the room, not on the outside. Everyone was trying to see their kids. And in the end, lots and lots of people just turned away, especially grandparents and people like that turned away. If you can't get in there, we fail on this. And we fail considerably. And if we fail, the consequences of that is we can't run that sort of event. And therefore, on the major events, I think that we have to have our staff, but the onus should be put on the smaller events and the people running it.
I think one of the considerations is, do we try to conduct training sessions with or run drills for regular hirers to disseminate information, and maybe it's for regular hirers and also for ones that if they're going to do a big event like Christmas, if that's, even if it's one-off, that we have some sort of, you know, mini training that we just ask them to come and have a chat, so they're actually thinking about those things and we can tell them what we expect.
I'm all in favour of it. I'm just worried about the costs and time for our staff to do this, for the people that are there. I think that when we're organising this, we should be providing them with the information and saying this is what you need to put in place. On the bigger occasions, then yes, we should be overseeing it because it is our responsibility overall. But on the smaller events, I think the onus should be put on the people that are running the event rather, because everything's got a cost. All the training that we do, right, half an hour spent in an office is half an hour of our staff's time, and that's expensive time. If that's the case, then we have to charge for that.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Councillor Coleman.
I agree with Councillor Cummings. Perhaps we could look at putting together, so for a larger event, that would be part of the cost, would be an hour of one of our members of staff's time going through the protocols and what needs to be done, also going through a bullet point of Martin's Law so that they understand why and what is going on. With the smaller events, I believe, as Councillor Cummings said, the onus should be put on the organisers, but they also should be given a copy of Martin's Law and expected to read it, and given a walkthrough of how to deal with that situation with regards to what we've put in place with the topography of the venue that we have.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I was just thinking if we did do kind of a check sheet of questions, have you considered, that kind of thing, because not every one of us is risk assessors, and we don't really necessarily think about that unless we're prompted. So if you could have that kind of standardised check sheet. Councillor Leach and then Councillor Young.
I fully understand why this is coming for big events, because this all came from a disaster and big. Bring it right down to small towns and villages even, it strikes me as going too far. Because if all these organisers just literally got to think about terrorism and all the other bits and pieces that could go wrong in an event, I can see a lot of events just not happen. They'll just say no, especially charitable events. They'll say no, it's just far too much to be put into this risk assessment method statements. If our staff have to be trained, it'd probably be cheaper to bring in specially trained people who know the job for the big events rather than try and get our staff to do it. But it does concern me. I understand why it came in, and it says you've got to do practical things. So how you got to practically make sure someone's not carrying something they could use as a terrorist? You've got to have metal detectors on the doors. I mean, that's serious stuff. Are you going to literally search people's bags and backpacks?
I think for me, it's a risk assessment is exactly that. It's a risk assessment, and we're assessing, is there a risk? And it might be, if we're looking at a coffee morning, is there an assessed risk?
I think I'm right in saying we're not within the tier that will require us to do that. We're not in that tier.
Yeah.
That's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so we would be a standard tier building because of the number of people we can hold, and that's thinking of something like a coffee morning, and if there was a fully attended wedding up here, which then makes things more complicated because of the two separate places that aren't fully separate. You can still get through from one to the other one with the fire exits as they are. So the main thing we'll be doing is I'll be writing a risk assessment overall, let's say getting some kind of bullet point stuff, the same way we do now with hirers when they do themselves for small events. You know, we point out the emergency exits and go through the fire evacuation procedure. It'll just be building on that, so it should maybe mean their briefing time at the beginning of their event maybe a little bit longer. But our kind of concern is more around most people are familiar with fire evacuation. They've been doing stuff like that their whole lives. But we're not so familiar in general with lockdowns and evacuation type stuff. So one reasonable thing that we've already done when we got the doors replaced down between the cinema and the foyer, that's now got a thumb-turn lock on it. So if there was a need to lock down, a hirer in the hall without any keys can lock all of those doors. That's the kind of simple level stuff in terms of practical measures that we're talking about rather than full, I don't know, metal detectors or bag searches or whatever. But you make a good point, especially with that boarding evening when there's things outside, because our main evacuation place is Red Line Yard, which is also full of people. So again, another part of it is us working with Red Line Yard, the shops, whatever's going on out here, as the event organisers, and having a bigger plan for that specific thing that would involve all of us together. Because again, if something happened outside, which wouldn't be within the scope of Martin's Law because it's an outside event, where are people going to go? They're going to try and get into the Charter Hall as a place of safety. So we need to think about those kind of things. But you make a good point. If we're thinking of it as large events, where's our cost? You know, do we say over a certain number of attendees is where we start considering bigger things and therefore maybe a more personalised approach to the system and the training aspect of it.
Thank you. Councillor Young?
I'm not sure actually if Rosie might sort of clarify some things to me there. my sort of not concern, I suppose my query is relating to talking about large events like the boarding evening, which what's in the Charter Hall is not organised by the Town Council, it's organised by the college. And one would assume that they would be familiar, because they've got more people than we have anyway, with Martin's Law, and that their staff would be briefed accordingly in how they should be. In terms of overcrowding, then clearly it needs to be clear to them they need to provide somebody on the door with a clicker, clicking people in and clicking people out, not exceed the numbers, because that is the virus, never mind anything else. So my slight concern is if we were to say that we would provide full staff and we would then start doing that, at what point are we becoming the organiser and the responsible party, and therefore it all has to sit under, you know, us and all the rest of it, and that's what I'm not overly sure about. And yeah, so that was really also part of what I was going to say. If we then had oversight, we would end up having to be responsible for the organisation of the event itself. So that was my sort of slight concern. I was just trying to weigh that up a little bit. But yeah, helpful what you're saying then about that if there was something happened outside, which doesn't sit, people would be trying to get into. And that, I think, is a problem. I don't really know how anybody can overcome that, because you're talking about numbers. Somebody click on the door, you can't come in, somebody's got to lock it. You know, can you imagine what that would be if there's something going on outside? Not sure how we address that, but that would have to be part of, I suppose, our own risk assessment.
I think there's some clarity that we need in relation to which law trumps what. Does terrorism trump fire rates, or is it the other way around?
Yeah, I have asked this question in various Martin's Law webinars, and they're basically saying if you have a venue with a capacity of 200, something happens unrelated to your event that means people are into your building to be a safe place, it'll be there. Basically, that being the safe haven for that unknown entity. No one's going to come back and go, ooh, but you exceeded your fire capacity in that instance. But if your event is already overcrowded, and then whatever happens, that would be an issue further down the line.
I think a lot of this is basically informing people, because a lot of people who hire our venue probably are possibly not aware of Martin's Law, and the bigger organisations like, for instance, college. I think we need to not just assume they know, but ask the question. And so if we have it as part of, we've got this, and fire regulations and Martin's Law, and then if there's a question and whoever's showing around or giving the tick saying yes, you know, you know everything you need to know, and are you aware of this Martin's Law and what would need to happen then? And then there's that discussion so everybody is aware. But yeah, we don't want to over-assess and wrap the whole piece in red tape, but we do want to make sure that people are aware of what's going to happen. Councillor Cummins.
Thinking about it, there's no reason why we can't get people trained up to train people for when they're hiring events. If you take regular events like the ABBA event and things like that, this year they haven't got to take that into consideration, but next year they're going to have to take that into consideration. If we've got people that are able to train that out, that's a service we can provide and charge for. And it's something that we can provide to them as a service for a negotiable fee. I don't know what the fee would be. But then, once they've got that training, they can take it on, but they're probably had that explained to them at various other events as they travel around the country doing this thing. But we've got regular events that come up on a regular basis of that sort of size, where the hall is at fairly full capacity. Not very often, but enough to make it worthwhile providing that service. So there is a money-making opportunity in that a minor way, which would provide a service to our people and ensure that our people are kept up to date with the law as well.
It would, but it would also take up time. So whilst you're making, possibly bringing in a bit of money, then it's taking staff time to actually do that. So it's actually then reducing the capacity that staff have done things.
Yeah, but the two would go together, wouldn't you? You charge for the time and the training.
If we get that back in staff time, yes.
That's the way I'm looking at it. I won't see it another way.
So what do you need from us? Do you need a proposal or, Councillor Leach, sorry.
I agree, we must let all our partners know what they are responsible for. And the big ones, we must make it extremely clear. It's their responsibility to run this whole process. If we start to say we're going to train those sort of people, then I don't think that's the way we should be using our staff. When it comes to the smaller events, hopefully it's just a ticked box situation, unless of course something goes wrong. Then the council's got to cover themselves, as well as the hire's got to cover themselves. So everything's hunky-dory with coffee mugs and things like that, small charity events. Hopefully everything goes wonderfully. If something does go wrong, we've got to have all these little boxes ticked, which I think is going to be onerous to both sides. But it's coming, rather like urine fish. It's coming, we might as well be prepared for it.
I did wonder about the possibility that, say, the smaller groups, the Coffee Monitor, they are similar people running those groups. So whether we were to do it as sort of just as an introductory rollout thing, whether we try and run a drill with and invite as many of those people who are regular small event hirers to that, and it would be as much a learning process for us in does our plan work, and a training exercise for them, just as a one-off in the beginning thing to introduce the idea, and then obviously we'd get feedback from them, again, just an idea to discuss.
Councillor Allen and Councillor Leach.
Would we not include a sort of briefing sheet with the booking form, and they would need to confirm that they have read that, and also, like we have fire the fires or drill, if you like, pinned up. We would also have something like this as well, pinned up, actually within the Charter Hall, isn't it? It's not going to sort of be nowhere else is big enough. In here is big enough, right? So it would be basically put up so that the organiser would need to, on their form, confirm that they have read the briefing note and made themselves familiar with the what they should be doing in the event something happens and how to identify it. Would seem fairly sort of sensible, particularly the small ones. And I would suggest that the large organisations should be familiar already, and they would still have within that briefing note that information as well.
Councillor H.
I'd like to see some format of what this drill would be. So it's probably exaggerating to go to America. Every child in school now has to go through a lockdown routine when there's a shooter on site. I hope to God we don't have to go down that far. But I'd like it to format as what we might be doing. How far do we go? Is it, drugs have disorderly sort of things, and social behaviour sort of things. This covers really serious stuff.
Councillor Cole.
I think before we go any further with a proposal or anything, I think it's worth bearing in mind that generally speaking, now, as opposed to 10, 15 years ago, the type of attacks we're seeing are on soft targets. So that is the kind of event that we could quite easily have in the Charter Hall, as opposed to the larger targets, which are very, very well covered by security. So I think we need to be mindful of that when we move forward, that it's not just fear-mongering, which I despise, but there is a serious risk.
Okay, so what would you like us to propose? That you add it to our already kind of preamble to somebody hiring a hall, so then they're aware, and then we could see how that goes, and if we need to revisit it.
Are you thinking then that for the smaller events that you would be happy for some information to be provided that they have to agree to in the information sheet, and then for the larger ones you would like something different, possibly staffed? So if that's what you're thinking, would it make sense if we drafted something for you to look at, and perhaps a suggestion of how we differentiated between those type of events?
Yeah. I also think that it depends on the organisers, because some organisers come in and they will be people who are used to organising events in lots of other places, and they're completely au fait with Martin's Law and what to do if that situation were to arise. Another would be absolutely like, I've never even heard of it. So I think I think it wouldn't be one size fits all. I think it is just that those kind of questions, but it would be good to see something drafted of maybe just that you have to take this into consideration, just so you know, and others where it's actually, we need to go through this process to make sure. And in the end of the day, all this is preparation for the just in cases. And if people are aware of the preparation, then hopefully are less likely to go into that, oh my gosh, no idea what to do, because in the back of their head, they'll have already thought about what they're going to do. Councillor Young.
So my question is then, if we were going to say that large events would be staffed, what would be the role of that member of staff? That's what I don't quite understand. What would they be actually be expected to do? So what would be, responsible, but what would that actually look like? And is there something within the scope of caretakers, or is that meant to be somebody with a higher qualification? And would they then be responsible for ensuring that the Martin Law protection thing is actually carried out, that they would actually need to stand on the door? And
there would be more responsibility on the council for sure.
Could we not come up with some sort of plan that I know it's a change, but if you hire either of the halls, you have to come in and sign to say you understand responsibility. That's really what we're after, isn't it?
We do that anyway.
So I know they do, well, I do it many times, but literally you just sign and go. I'm talking about maybe coming into the office and actually, maybe a 6 or 7 pointer, you have to understand which you're signing for.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I think it's the additional process, like for instance, you saying that there's now a lock on the inside of the door, so then somebody knows that if in the event of a terrible thing, then you know that that's the protocol. And they're saying, okay, yeah, I understand, and I'm trying to say, I understand that this, and this. And I think that we don't need to staff it from our own staff. If there is people, if it's a big event and somebody really wasn't capable, but I think people who would hire the hall would be capable, because I would have thought in the hall, but we might, I think it's not a blanket rule. I would say it's more of an assessment of the people who are hiring.
Some of the bigger events, like music events that we have there sometimes, part of the licensing agreement is that they have your staff anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that could be included within their duties potentially.
Yeah.
So I have another question then, because if you're saying that it would be on a case-by-case basis, by what criteria do you assess the capacity of somebody who's organising something? If you think they're going to get that provided for them for free by the council, they're going to say no, they can't cope with it. So my argument would be that actually, if you're organising a large event, you should already, within your own risk assessment, be aware and familiar with of what you need to be actually doing, because it would be, as you say, for larger, and as Councillor Cummings said, that when there's a concert that's organised, it would be by people who are doing it all over the country. So, they will have been in other places, so they will be familiar. I think what I'm trying to do, I suppose, is just consider the impact on our staffing, but also what that is actually going to mean in real terms, because obviously if we're going to start bringing staff in to actually staff events, it's going to have an impact on the other work they do, because they're not going to have extra hours, so they're not going to be able to do the work that they're already doing. So that's something that we would have to take into account. Or we have to hire extra staff, and then, but how do you do that? If it's going to be on very much an ad hoc basis, we know as a tried and tested thing that doesn't work. People don't come forward on an ad hoc basis. So I'm just thinking, being wary of just not making something more complicated that needs to be, opening a bigger can of worms that needs to be opened. Keep it sort of simple but essential.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if somebody was to say, yes, we want to hold a big event, that we haven't got the capacity to take into consideration Martin Fall, then perhaps that's an extra expense. I can't think that would be an extra expense if they wanted some. Or maybe you'd have to say, well, you have to, then the onus is on them to bring somebody in who is able to tick the box and say, we've got somebody who can do that.
I think I would be thinking of it in terms of, if you're running an event and you're not sure how many people would come and you need somebody on the door checking numbers, that is part of your responsibility as the event organiser. However, if we were going to have staff on hand to assist in case of an emergency, that would be our staff who are familiar with the building, but that would then mean you can't rely on those staff to be doing much of another job at that time. They would just be sitting there just in case, which is what we say a much bigger hours and using up that time resource for them, or you have to give more hours to those rules. But in terms of the checklist, because even if it's larger organisations who are familiar with Martin's Law, that checklist of do this, do that, lock this door, that's always going to be building specific. So even if they've done it near their everywhere, here is a different building. So that checklist would be similar, probably the same for small groups and large groups, but in case of emergency, this, follow these steps for this building. And that kind of, the more general, Martin's Law is this, people look at Jonathan Dudley, or, that kind of thing would be very long.
So it sounds like you're saying, yes, definitely pull this into the procedures for somebody hiring a hall. But in my head as well, just kind of think about it, it's like somebody saying, I want to hire a hall, but I'm not going to take any consideration towards fire regulations. Well, they have to. And so Martin's Law is going to be the same thing because it's actually coming in as law. So it's not us saying it's not a good idea. It's actually, you know, that this is law. So I think we just put the onus back on the hirers and then see where we go from there. And the people who do hire for big events who aren't able to take that on board, they're just, I can't see that happening. I think we would have to. So yeah, but please, if you could do that work of saying, build it in, and we could see the paperwork of how that's done and the check sheets, and then I think that would be great. That would be a proposal, yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question
Yeah.
within that? Does anyone have an idea of what you would consider attendance-wise a big event? So we can say under X number, this, above X number, that.
I think they'd almost decide it would be one and the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think what would be the difference in Martin's Law about number of it? It's like if there was a risk, there would be no difference. It would just be the same process and procedure. So I think it just is.
10,
Yeah, how to reach.
whether it be 10 people or 200 people, the risk is the same.
Okay, Councillor Coleman.
I'll second your proposal.
Okay, thank you. All in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you everybody for good debate. We're going on to 7.3, window replacement and repair work. Consider the report in relation to submission of a planning application. Councillor Coleman.
Okay, so I've done a lot of digging around on this, and I know what I'd rather see happen, and I'll give you my reasoning. So, with regards to the, is it the Accoya, which is the infused softwood? I don't know anyone that has dealt with it a lot. As it's not new, but it's a fairly new material, and hasn't had the time of the test of time, shall we say. Softwood for me is a massive no-go. I've done so many softwood repairs on softwood windows. They never last very long. Softwood windows don't last very long unless you maintain them rigorously. So for me, I would like to see a hardwood used and a fairly robust maintenance program put in place, and I'd also like to see the double glazing, because the single glazing with the secondary glazing is causing issues that have been pointed out with regards to lack of airflow. It then causes like almost like a vivarium effect between the two panes of glass, so you end up with a lot of steam in hot weather, which makes it difficult to, or makes it worse for the timbers being used, and it also makes it a lot harder with the secondary glazing for personnel to actually do the upkeep. So that's where I stand on it. Thank you.
Got any comments? Councillor Leach?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yes, it's been around since the 90s, so it has been around some time. But and it does have a good guarantee, so if it goes wrong, you've got something to fall back. The only thing with it, because of the type of treatment it has, it weakens the structure, so the timber is easily bended. So, yeah, that along the bottom, the kids come alongside it and end up with goats in this particular type of timber. Hardwood, it depends on what hardwood you use. You've got to be very careful where you actually source that hardwood, because it's not sustainable in most places. You use sapele, something like that, as a terrible product to actually use because it does is appalling, but it does give long life. The other thing with HUD, which is also quite difficult, it paint is stick down unless you use a specific type of primer, so that would be more expensive. So I was asked about between a hardwood and a softwood replaced at this moment in time. If Historic England have now relented and have said yes to the historic style double glazing, I think that's probably the best one. But the second glazing here acts as soundproof, which just double glazing wouldn't do. You've only got those of us who've been here that when the windows are open and the traffic's going by, you need sign language. It's quite different. So we're going to have to do certainly on these aspects. We'll have to think seriously about having some form of triple glazing for the sound insulation. So I'm going to come up with notes there. Hardwood's lovely. Yeah, it's brilliant. I shot on say longest in May, so those going to get below it says it's cheaper than the softwood. I don't understand that. From a joy.
Can I just clarify then, are you for the double glazing or the single glazing? For the double glazing?
I'm saying if the conservation officers follow Historic England's ruling, doesn't mean they will. Then I think that's the best option for sure.
Which, the
Double glazing.
double glazing? Okay.
I was just going to say that you could have double glazing with secondary glazing that is just used when there is a meeting in here and it's kept open at all other times so that the air can then circulate is one thought that just went through my mind then.
There is also the option with the slimline double glazing. There are additional treatments you can get to help with either for the frosting, security, or for sound deadening as well, which we could choose to apply to specific windows. It doesn't have to be a band, but we don't need to decide that yet. At the plan application stage, all we need to put in is whether it's single or double glazing and which type of window frame material we want to go for, and we can get into the details later on.
Is it beyond?
I would prefer just the double glazing rather than single glazing and secondary. I think it would look better and again, easier to maintain going forward. I mean, I've got double glazing at home, which we've had for a few years, so this would be a more modern one. And I have to say that you don't actually necessarily hear. I know Raleigh is fairly isolated, but we do get people coming up our drive, and they can come up quite fast sometimes. You don't hear them necessarily. Even the dog doesn't always hear them, so you can't blame my hearing on that one. So I would imagine that probably the soundproofing has improved a lot over the years because these would be completely modern. As to the difference between the Accoya and the hardwood, I'm easy on either way that yes, there's a 50-year warranty, which assuming the company that provides it continues to be in business for those 50 years would be good. It's got good reviews from the architect, but whether the architect has an interest, I don't know. And the local joiner probably doesn't have an interest. And it does come from sustainable forests. I really don't know between the Accoya and the hardwood. I wouldn't support just softwood on its own for the reasons you've already been said.
Councillor Coleman's making a proposal, I second it. That we're going for hardwood and double glazing.
Okay.
Councillor Leach?
I just note caution. Double glazing sealed units don't last as long as people advertise. I know that from my own experience. Double glazing sealed, that's done, don't we? Then all of a sudden, they all start to frost up. So we've got to remember that could be on costs and maintenance in the fullness of time. with those units.
I think that's the gamble that we take no matter what we do.
Yes.
I don't think that's a consideration for this stage. Like you, I'm stuck between the Coir and the hardwood. I've seen both used, especially up around London and a lot of the buildings there. The Coir is the preference, simply because of the lifespan that it gets. As for its longevity, the damage that happens, I've never witnessed it. I've only ever watched it go in. So, you know, I've got no preference on that, but hardwood's definitely the way to go as far as I can see. And double glazing would be the best way forward.
So we have a proposal for hardwood and double glazing. We've got a seconder for hardwood and double glazing. Can I have show of hands as to whether you're in agreement with that? Against? Abstentions? One abstention. Great. Ready? Okay, fire audit, kitchen and other improvements. Proceed matter on progress and on next phase of improvement works. Is that you, Willie?
Yes, so you probably all noticed the works started down around the kitchen in the Charter Hall. So we've had that wall brought up to the 60-minute fire stopping rating that we needed to, and similar work done in various electrical cupboards, which was highlighted on the last fire risk assessment. That's mostly now been plastered, and we've started the repainting side of it, looking a bit nicer. We're waiting on the hatch between the kitchen and the Charter Hall. Got a new stainless steel worktop going in for that space next week, and then once that worktop's fitted, we'll be getting the roller shutter fitted there. Once they're both in, then that will be fitted in and integrated into the fire alarm system. So that's some of the main big jobs. We are still awaiting the sign-off certificate on those works. So once that comes in and meets all the standards, etc., then that will be completed, invoice paid, finished, hopefully. Before we start using the kitchen again, we still need to look a little bit into the food hygiene side of things, get the equipment that hasn't been used for a while cleaned up properly, probably deep cleaning the extractor fans and that kind of thing. But then we shouldn't be too far off being able to start doing catering again.
Great.
I can't give you any exact dates as yet.
Fantastic, thanks, Rosie. Any questions? No? Well done.
Great news.
Cool. Okay, 7.5, Christmas lights in July. To consider a request from bid to project Christmas lights onto the front elevation, to the front elevation front of the town hall.
Just with my bid director's hat on, we're planning a lot further ahead than we did last year. So we're on the door in the yard. And being the sort of local town council, I'm responsible for the community aspect of the bid. And I'm particularly on looking at Christmas lights in Edwardian evening. Now we've had meetings already with the events manager and the lighting contractor, and had a walk through. And the current aspirations is to improve what we had last year, so we have the main bits and pieces across the 4th Street, but we'll extend it up East Street with wraps around the lamps, and they're welcome to have counters on the Quins. We have wraps around the lights on and off the street, as far as off street. Prior to that, hopefully we'll put some festival lighting, which is like diagonally across, which will be there all the time, so it can be used for carnival night and switch on and off as and when. The lighting contractor would like to put a star that we used to have on the chapel, subject to permission. So we've got a projector that we know where to project. And I'm just seeking permission to, he's worked out that lamppost over the road by the beginning of George Street is perfect
sort of flat element to this building, and we're looking to project snowflakes, Christmas themed robins or whatever it is, onto this building. We're just seeking permission for you to do that. Obviously, it'll be very much like our flag policy: no advertising, no campaigning, but just this particular one to come on here. Just a note about the issue with Christmas in the Charter Hall. This year we're having a meeting the 29th with all Edwardian Evening stakeholders, the Rotary, the PTA here, just to make sure we get the timeline right. So the choir's not in that building when it should be over there, and that sort of thing. So there might be an opportunity then to explain to them your multiple business. So anyway, that's my request for this resolution, possibly project during the duration of Christmas.
Thanks, Councillor Tolley. Councillor
Well, you've answered my question actually. I was going to ask, is it just for Edwardian Evening or was it for the whole the Christmas period? If it was for the whole of the Christmas period, what is the position regarding like drivers, distraction for drivers? Is that something that's kind of been thought about?
I can only speak with the contractors about that. I'm sure they must know the law.
Well, it was just a, it was just a kind
I
of
can't
thought.
see
that
it. It'll be just floaty flakes. It's only going to affect people coming out George Street, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
I
more
just,
than happy to
I just
follow
thought
that up.
that
If you
might
put it
be
on
worth
the
clarifying.
yeah.
On the safety issue, that was
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. It was a good idea, but that was the first thing I thought of.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Leach?
No, I'd just like to propose to accept this. The lights last year were not as good as we've had in the past. So if we can actually promote better, then yes.
So proposed for Councillor Leach, seconded Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, and I think the meeting on the 29th is a fantastic idea, because I'm sure nobody wants me to do an a cappella again.
The town council have actually been invited to that meeting as well.
I have received an email,
Yeah.
but only just later this evening.
I know what.
Yeah. So if I can, I intend to go along.
Okay, so we have a proposal, we have a seconder, all in favour? Unanimous. Not anonymous, unanimous even. We're all,
It's the heat.
I'll do that first day. Okay, 7.6, air conditioning. To consider a request from Councillor Coleman that the provision of air conditioning in the offices and the CCTV storage space is reviewed. Councillor Coleman, do you have a comment?
Yeah, with regards to the fairly severe heat that we've had recently, I felt that we need to make provision, especially as it looks like in the future it's not going to get any cooler. And I felt that although there is, I believe, one aircon unit in the office, it doesn't really serve the entire office space. So a second aircon unit to start would probably be a good idea, particularly if it's a mobile air conditioning unit, because it can be utilised in other areas. For example, up here at weddings in the summer, it gets rather warm, doesn't it? So I think for staff comfort and for the comfort of people that come here, I think it would be a good thing to have. With regards to CCTV storage space, I can't remember exactly what that was about, to be honest with you.
Getting rather warm.
Ah, that's right, yes, sorry. Now, thank you for that. You've reminded me where we were with that the other day. So, once again, air conditioning is a standard practice for server rooms and any equipment that's liable to get warm. So, it might be worth looking into using some aircon in order to keep that storage area cool. Thank you, Anne.
Can I just ask, do we have a kind of a price range for air conditioning? Okay. Councillor Coleman.
I'm not opposed to portable air conditioning units, but with the way that the environment's changing and the way that temperatures are changing, air conditioning is going to become a saleable point for most of our buildings that we want to use and propose. Mobile air conditioning units are great in a small home or in a facility, a small facility, but they start to get expensive when you're trying to cool down very large spaces, and this is, for example, is a large space. Air conditioning may not be the full answer, but air movement can be an answer. The example is a pie factory didn't have air conditioning, but had great big air movement, fans right the way around, and I worked in 48 degree temperatures where actually it was only 32 degrees because of the air movement it was still in front of, with a slight chill on it. When we're looking at the future, the hiring of the Charter Hall, the hiring of up here, then maybe we should look in the long term at air conditioning to support the whole building rather than just particular areas. It's a long term plan, but it's something that needs to be considered, especially the way things are going around the country and around the world.
Councillor Coleman?
Through the chair, if I may. Yes, I agree with Councillor Cummins. I used to work in air conditioning, and the mobile units, they're great for small compartments, but for larger areas such as this, not so good, gets expensive. I agree entirely. We have one hell of a roof space up there. We could house all sorts of little gizmos that could help with air movement, as Councillor Cummins has said. No, I think I would like Rosie to look into different options that are available for us with regards to that, and future-proofing our comfort and the comfort of the people that utilise our facilities.
Great. So that's a proposal for Rosie to have a look into those kind of things.
Could I just add to that the registry office? Because if they're going to be using it for small, informal meetings, we need to be promoting it as a usable space. If you walk into a hot building, I don't think many brides are going to want to spend a lot of money on their hair and their makeup and then come into a hot space. It's not going to happen. So the whole building needs to be looked at.
I agree to that.
Okay, so I've got a proposal of sector, all in favour? Okay. Thank you. Okay, 7.7, council chamber meeting layout to consider requirements for extending seating arrangements following the increase in councillor from 14 to 15 in 2027. Have you got an idea?
Do you have any idea of what you would like to do? Do you want to carry on sitting sort of as you are? There isn't really room to put another person around the table like it currently is. I think we might still be able to get the same furniture, in which case we could look to add something on that end.
Okay, councillor Marsh, then councillor Yellen, then councillor Coleman. That's okay, so councillor Marsh.
Why can't we use up there? The mayor could sit there. Deputy mayor could sit there as well, and maybe that's got rid of two on here, and maybe somebody else or whatever. Because
whoever's clerking it need to be up there because they're usually near the chairman to be able to pass things across. Or
well, then the clerk as well, but somebody. But I was thinking of your laptop. If your laptop will go, and you can do that.
Well,
because to have another table here, you're encroaching in there, and it's then more stuff you have to get rid of when the chamber is used, and an extra cost. We could always try it out first and see.
Would you still sit here with your back to people up there? And we could, the shelving up there for anybody apart from the chairman or mayor in the middle isn't very big to put paperwork on.
Okay, councillor Yellen, what's my ideas?
I was going to suggest the same thing. I was going to say that full council is the only time we've kind of, so that's the only time it's going to be an issue. So you could then simply take this rounded end and put it at the back and then shift these up. So in actual fact, you've got people would be sitting like that, looking up at the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the clerk, to be able to for full council. Yeah.
Disease.
You might be able to get something made that would fit over the existing shelves there that would extend them and create a flat platform up there.
Councillor Coleman?
I had initially thought about having a small piece put between and just opening the desks, although that would really significantly make them, if it was only small, it probably work. But actually, with regards to us sitting up there and then spinning the table round, I think that solves the issue, really.
Okay, so I think we have a proposal from Councillor Marsh that we have the Mayor, Deputy and Clerk sitting up there and everybody else are here. Do I have a second for that? We have lots of seconders to choose from. Oh, sorry, Councillor Cummins.
I'm not against it, but maybe before we say yes or no, we should set it up for our next full council meeting to see what it looks like before we commit ourselves. Because if we commit ourselves, then we need to get work done for back units to make sure that they're workable with a laptop and for the paperwork and various other bits and pieces. And if we say yes now and then find out it doesn't work, we tie yourself up in knots. I'm not against it, I'm totally for it, but I just think that we need to be on the cautionary side rather than push into it.
Okay, so
Do you
Councillor
want me
Marsh,
to add that bit to
you're
it?
happy for that amendment, so we give it a try, see how it goes, and then decide. Councillor
I would hope that the intercom system might work in this expansion.
yes, I hope so too. Okay, so we had a proposer, we had a seconder, Councillor Trolley, all in favour? Okay, great. Oh, my historical artifacts. So I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed getting into the history of the town council. Between myself and a number of others, there was one. We did a lot of work back the mayors, getting all the biographies and everything. And to me, my head was full of history. It was really informative. I really enjoyed it. And then for the mayor's coffee morning, then there was a suggestion from myself and Councillor Marsh that we got down some artefacts, which we did, and encouraged people to come and have a look. And it was really popular. It was great. Once we encouraged people to come to the back and have a look, then people really got into it and really enjoyed the different things that we had. We had a Gunter's chain. And I didn't know anything about Gunter's chains, but I researched it and found out all about it. It was really quite interesting and people went, oh right, yeah, I knew what that was. So that was just really good, but it's just that, I just wanted to kind of give that feedback that it was just, it was something that was, and people were saying, well, what else have you got up there? And what we do have up there is we have a lot of maps. And so my next project I'd like to do is bring down some maps and do like Oakhampton through the ages. And so get the oldest map that we could have, which I've seen one of the maps, and it basically has all the fields named. And so I didn't know this, but the estates that we have are named after the fields it was built on. That actually makes sense. I didn't know. And I think that people will be quite excited and say, oh, I lived in, Lower Crooked Avenue, and actually that was the name of the actual field. And so we can do that. But then also we've got maps then, and I remember Councillor Root saying to me ages ago that when he moved in, that Leaholes was actually backed onto fields. And it's been all built, and we have actually got a couple of maps that shows that the fields from Leaholes, all the fields from Leaholes, that's all been built on now. So that's what I'm thinking, I'll maybe do that in September. So if anybody would like to join me in that, Councillor Marsh, thank you. And if anybody's got, what I was thinking is maps, because we've got so many up there, but there's probably gaps. So people have got old maps that they think that they have that would be helpful. And I was thinking maybe as well photos of the town. So we've got the maps, but also we have photos. And I'm going to get hold of Mike Rayford as well, because I think he's got lots.
We have to.
And you have to.
Oakhampton Memories.
Yeah, and Oakhampton Memories. So but if anybody would like to join me in that history project, then I'm welcome you to. And because the other thing that we've got to magically think about is how do we hang these maps up in a way that doesn't damage them, that people are going to point and look at them. It's not really a problem. Also hang them in a way that people can see, and it becomes a good display and not a difficult one. So anybody's got ideas, just put your thinking caps on and off, come back. Thinking caps on and off, come back. And that's good. Is that okay? Any questions, Councillor Leach?
Well, just a statement. Giving the old maps and getting old field names, I think would be extremely helpful in the future. Because I think we should have had them a few years ago, so we wouldn't have the stupid situations of Meldon Fields being out there when Meldon is out there, and a development at Esseron called Stanley Court. We've never been a Stanley town.
Yeah.
So from a future planning committees, they can look and say, well, that's the name of those fields. Name is that after.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or maybe we can even apply to rename the places, maybe. It's been done before. Cool. Great, thank you. So point 8, finance. Resolve and approve the payment schedule. So everybody should have the payment schedule in front of you. So I have a look at. Oh, Councillor Marsh.
I've had a read and I'd like to propose to accept them.
Okay. Second from Councillor Coleman. All in favour? Okay, that's that one done. Then we have members' reports and requests. So the first one, 9.1, is Dartmoor Railway Association, Councillor Fisher.
Yep, I'm regularly in contact with the Dartmoor Railway and things are going well. They haven't sorted out quite the new station, how it's going to be cleaned and that sort of thing, but it's coming. And I'm off to a meeting in now in Tavistock of the railways, all the railway people, on Thursday this week. So,
Thank you. Then the next one is myself, Jan Hanshu, Museum of Dartmoor Life. So we had them come in, for those of you who weren't here at PNR the other week, they came in and they had a chat with us and at the public part, just to basically say they're very, very grateful for the 50 years worth of support that they've had to date, but then also disappointed that they didn't get more financial support from us during the grant application time. So I'll just also reiterate how much work they have to do in the museum, and also how other towns often support museums, because they're in the building of the town council where they're not in our building and they have to do their own upkeep. So there was just all of that kind of discussion. So it was a half and half. Thank you very much for your support, and the other half was we kind of was hoping that they would get the full amount, and they didn't, and that does cause them an issue with their financial cash flow for this year. So I think we just wanted to make links with us so we knew exactly what was going on for them. There is another trustees meeting coming up in the next week or so. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it because I'm away, but then there's one in September that I know we're going to get more feedback. But I think one of the concerns from the museum was they were worried that we as a town council were no longer supportive of them, because it had been 2 years in a row. I think the previous year when we had said, could the bid take on the tourist information? And I think that essentially is a successful switchover, hopefully, and hopefully the bid can continue to support the tourist information. Then this year, with the lack of finances, they wondered whether we were being supported. And just to convey the biggest concern that they have is they're putting in a big bid to the National Lottery to support them with all their building. And one of their key stakeholders is us as town council. And on paper then it doesn't look positive in their direction, because we have we deducted our financial support for them, and then it looks like from the outside looking in, oh, therefore the town council isn't supported. And it's nothing of the sort. However, if somebody was just reading the figures and going, oh, they gave them that, and then they gave them less, and then they gave them less again, oh, what's going on there then? So just to give that feedback back, that was their concerns. But other than that, I think the museum does really well in the town. I think we get a lot of tourist visitors as opposed to people from the town, but they are all often got a lot of things going on there. So I'll just leave it there. 9.3, that's Councillor Coleman. North Dartmoor reception issue.
Thank you. I haven't been in touch with them for about a month or so, but I have managed to put them in touch with our local fire service, which has been a mission of mine for the last 3 years. Finally managed to make that happen. So the bosses are on each other's pages, and hopefully they're going to do a combined drill, which I think would be really useful and very good for the town, because it will give both services an overview of their capabilities, and they both work in the same fields. So that's really good. On the point of the emergency services, I think we're all aware of how warm it's been lately, and I don't think I've seen so many emergency service vehicles on blue lights flying around Devon as I have recently. So I think I'd like to thank them all for what they're going through at the minute. I know what it's like working in this heat and full kit, and it's not overly pleasant, and I'd just like to thank them for their dedication. Do you want me to move on?
Go on to Oakhampton Hospital, yes.
So North Dartmoor Health Initiative, yeah, they're still pushing quite hard. At the minute, things have slowed down, simply because we're waiting for things to happen. There is a focus within the group toward dental healthcare, which is something that was highlighted in the report as a result of the questionnaire that went out, as something that Oakhampton and the surrounding areas desperately need NHS dental treatment available to the people. So we're looking into ways in which we could help facilitate that. Councillor Goffey has asked me to let you know that she has had a small minor procedure in the hospital, the minor surgical procedure, and it went incredibly well, and she was very pleased, and she would like me to put forward to all of you, so that you can put forward to our people, that should you have a minor procedure or minor things that need doing that are potentially being farmed out to other small hospitals, request to have it at Oakhampton, because that does add pressure to the system. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. I've got five transitions. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Can I just add to that I heard 2 days ago that through the Rotary there's supposed to be a lady Rotarian who is a dentist who is coming to Oakhampton.
Thank you, Councillor. Transition to Oakhampton, Councillor Cummins.
Not much to sort of report. The repair cafe is this weekend. It's going okay, but needs more support. We're not sure how we can promote it anymore. I mean, I had an overcoat, the sleeve shortened on it, the lockholes moved, brand new. It took the lady a few days to do. For a donation, I put £20 on the kitty, but I got quoted to have the same repair done, £45, £50, and to be out of use for 2 to 3 weeks. We provide teas, coffees, sausage wraps and bacon, little chat points and various other bits and pieces. Electrical testing, we're struggling to get electricians, we'd like more electricians involved, but the repair cafe continues to grow. We're just trying to get more people to use it and make more benefit, save themselves some money effectively. Right. There's an investigation going on to an art project that's approached some of the people that are involved in Transition Town, predominantly Jane. She is an artist and got a history in art, and she's been working with a local group that put in children's artwork around the town and various other bits and pieces. And we're looking at how we can promote the emergency hubs, and how we can promote grab bags and planning for emergency situations like our wanted round the town. So there's a number of projects going on at the moment, and we're doing all right.
Great.
We need the support of the repair cafe, definitely.
Can you remind us where is it and what times?
So Church Hall opposite my curtain here, and it's from 10 till 12, but usually goes to about 12:30.
Okay, so the Church Hall opposite the cinema, 10 till 12.
Yeah.
on this Saturday. Great.
Right. And it's every month, and there's a list of all the months that are provided on the windows of various shops around the town.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can head into part 2. So the committee is recommended to pass the following resolution: resolved that under section 1, bracket 2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, that the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items which are confidential by virtue of relating to legal and or commercial matters, staffing and or the financial or business affairs of the person or persons other than the council. So I have a proposal of Councillor Leach, second by Councillor Coleman. All in favour? Great, thank you.